Hi, in this video, I'm going to talk about the oral law, which is a very important concept in Judaism. To understand it, we must start with the written Torah, which we read from every week in our services. According to tradition, the written Torah has 613 commandments. However, in most cases, these commandments and laws are spelled out in general terms without the details of how they are to be observed. So to take one example, the Torah quite clearly says that one shall honor the Sabbath and keep it holy. But it doesn't explain what that means in practice. How do we do this? How do we implement this law? According to the Orthodox, this understanding is conveyed in the Oral Torah, which, again, according to tradition, was handed to Moses at the same time that God gave to him the written Torah. And Moses handed these instructions down to Joshua, who handed them down to the prophets, who handed them down to the men of the Great Assembly until they were finally written down in the Talmud by the sages and rabbis. And that's how we know exactly how to observe Shabbat. The problem is, this is problematic for two reasons. The first one is timing. According to the consensus of scholars, the Torah was finalized in approximately the late 6th century before the Common Era. However, the concept, the doctrine of the oral law from Sinai did not evolve until much later, until Amoraic times, which means in the 3rd or 4th century of the Common Era. So there's something like a 900-year gap between the giving of the Torah and the promulgation of this doctrine of the oral law from Sinai, which suggests that this was not something inherent in Judaism, but was something that was created by the rabbis to enhance their authority in the face of what they regarded as existential threats from Christianity, the Karaite heresy, and Islam. The concept is problematic for a second reason, which is the lack of support in the Pentateuch and indeed the presence of contrary evidence. And what I'm referring to is that 4 times in the books of Numbers and Leviticus, people come to Moses with legal questions, and he's unable to answer the question, but says, okay, let me consult with God, and then I'll come back and give you the answer. The 4 examples are the observance of Passover by those who, through no fault of their own, were ritually impure at the time it was to be observed. Second, the method of execution for a Sabbath desecrator. Third, how to handle the question of female inheritance when there is no male heir, a problem that was brought forth by the daughters of Zelophehad. And fourth, what's the punishment for blasphemy? The fact that Moses had to go and consult with God to get these answers suggests that he did not receive the oral Torah from Sinai as tradition holds. The bottom line, therefore, is that if you don't observe Shabbat exactly as the Orthodox do, it's not necessarily the case that you're doing it wrong. If you're interested in more information on this and other related topics, please check out my book, Come Now, Let Us Reason Together. Thank you.